Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. First off, I want to thank everyone that left kind words on my Light Cleric video. The good news is your voices have been heard. There was a lot of comments asking for a continued series such as this, so here it is. This will be coming out a week after that video. And this one, we're going to take a little bit of a departure from the using of deities or races to create the character. And I'm just going to kind of talk about a character that was a bit more off the wall, be really good for more of a comedic relief kind of style character. That came from me wanting to play Shepard Druid, but getting sick of doing the stereotypical Druid stuff. And I was like, okay, well, how can I change this? How can I make it a little bit more exciting and fresh and new? This character was used in a 3-shot, so it wasn't a super long campaign. So it wasn't super serious. We were having a lot more fun with our designs. So the first place I kind of looked at was the Conjure Animals text. As Conjure Animals is the main summon spell I tend to use, and it says that you summon Fey spirits that take the form of a beast and appear in an unoccupied space. I think the key thing there is that they are not the beasts. They are spirits that are, transforming into the desired creature. So you can have a lot more fun with kind of the way they look than you might initially think because nothing says it has to be the actual animals. The spiders are my go-to, by the way. You want to use this spell and not bog down your table with a ton of little enemies. Just do like cave spiders. I think they're CR1 or 2. And the web ability is fantastic for setting up your melee people. But to get back to the concept. So I was like, okay, I want to do Shepherd Druid. I want to do something a bit different. I want to play a race I never played before and really don't know much about. And I want to do a druid, but in a way that I don't think I've seen someone do a druid before. So what did I do? I went, okay, well, what are druids like, right? Animals. So instead of doing the animal being, the animal loving humanoid, I was like, well, why don't I be the animal? So Loxodon was the first thing I thought of because I think Loxodon druids are a pretty common thing in the Ravnica lore. In the Ravnica lore, the Loxodons are part of the Conclave, and the Conclave is very nature focused already. So those are kind of built in. So I don't, because naturally, it being a Loxodon makes it very gentle, makes it, they have a history of kind of being good with animals, things of that nature. I felt like the race kind of took on a lot of the stereotypical druid roles. Let me push the character in a completely different direction because I didn't really have to worry about things like why my character could talk to animals because we could just be like, oh, it's something Loxodons do. And I wanted to do kind of the gentle giant, which is pretty well played out, but I wanted to have a bit more fun with it. And I chose a foghorn leghorn kind of style voice for the character. Which, for those of you that aren't aware, Foghorn Leghorn is the cartoon character from the Warner Brothers cartoons. I kind of wanted someone that was kind of dumb but well mannered. Like Foghorn Leghorn's a bit selfish and awful, but he also has a conscience. So I took some inspiration from for the voice and kind of the mental attitude, but I didn't get as whimsical as the cartoons are. The next was my appearance, my aesthetic, right? So I have this big kind of gentle dummy. Typically intelligence is dump stat for druids anyway, so what about elephants for the inspiration can we had I in? So I was looking at the Indian elephants because in India they have parades and things where they dress up the elephants in all these like wonderful attire, right? They have these like fancy, colorful clothing they put on them. And I was thinking of kind of doing a bit of inspired by the old Southern kind of gentlemen's like Colonel Sanders and stuff like that kind of era where they would dress like, I don't know another way of saying this, but they kind of dress like pimps but take that kind of, like, well-dressed Southern individual, mix some Indian kind of colors, jewelry in there, and then let's go wild with it. Let's throw in a hookah. So, the magic kind of descriptions were inspired by the Hunter x Hunter character, Morel, and how they use a pipe to kind of create, smoke that they use trigger their abilities, but using the trunk and using a pipe as well and blowing clouds that would become the creatures that would be the summons. That was kind of a really fun and interesting way of doing it. Obviously, druids have access to things like fog cloud, so the spell kind of choices work themselves out. And Dumbo has the pink elephants on parade bit. the really kind of trippy, weird music from that. You can take inspiration from the imagery of that and use it as well to kind of describe maybe how your things would move, how they can, shift from one thing into the other thing, give you some ideas of just basically trying to describe how things can shift and move. There's plenty of images online of animals being made out of smoke. So if you want to have some visual handouts or, images that you could send to the players, it's a pretty common theme. Now, I don't think Speech of the Woods came up at all. We were playing an undead campaign, so we didn't really worry about Speech of the Woods. Things like spirit totems, being able to have like a creature, for example, a bear being made of the smoke, and the bear kind of like getting up on its hind legs, roaring, and then exploding into the ring, the aura ring, things like that. To like be like, okay, well, I'm using this ability. This bear is forming. You see the bear above everybody floating in the smoke. It like roars, and then it like collapses into the smoke that trickles by the feet. And then as the smoke hits your character, you feel a surge, and that's where the temp hit points come from. You can do things like that that work really well. And then you have like a ring of smoke on the ground around you that moves with you, and that's where the continued hit points are coming from. Like, you can do little descriptions like that that work really well. Obviously, for the creating of the creatures, you would just shoot the smoke out, they would form into the creatures, and then would say the creatures. I think it's a really easy concept that you can adapt quickly to whatever spell effect you're using at that time. You have a way, if you want to decorate them more, you can take some inspiration. Maybe if you're meeting with a noble, or if there's a special event going on or something of that nature, you can use the artwork of various elephants that are dressed up for parades from in India and use that as kind of an inspiration for like how you would do facial makeup and things like that. And I think the you're not using greens, you're not using browns, you're like this very colorful, bright elephant that is caring of nature, right? Like, you still are kind to animals, you still can talk to them, but you're not like overly druidy, you have a respect for it, but you're just almost like a prince in the sense that you are dressed very well, you smoke the fanciest of whatever you want, whatever you choose to put in the pipe in your setting. You're like a classier kind of individual. For our campaign, I used Junior as the name of the elephant, implying that it was Jumbo's son, the very famous circus performing elephant. I also kind of like the idea of this giant, 7 to 8 foot tall, huge, super heavy elephant man having a name like Junior, much like, maybe calling him Tiny, is almost ironic in this sense because you would think someone named Junior would be smaller. So the name already has a bit of inherent comedy to it. The foghorn leghorn kind of accent, the assay, kind of like rambly, quick talking, but kind of dumb character itself for a lot of joke for the other party members to make. So it gives it kind of a really good back and forth. If you personally are maybe one of the funnier people at your table, or you're one of the people that makes the most jokes, it's really good once in a while to play a character that just sets the other players up for the jokes, because they know that if it's the same style you would make and you've been playing with them for a while, they're going to know what you would have said if they had said the same thing. So give them some time, tee them up for some good, put down things, and just let them hit them out of the park. They'll appreciate it. It'll be good. They'll love the character. In fact, I think Junior was originally supposed to be part of a one shot, and Jumbo Junior was liked so much that I'm pretty sure they continued the campaign for another 2 or 3 sessions. It wasn't all at one time. The way our group would do it was we would play the main campaign for 3 weeks, and then we would do a one shot. The one shot was run by the other players, so the DM had a little bit of time to prep and do other things. And so they had a chance to be a player once in a while, because I think it's really important, and I've said this in, I believe, a few videos already, but I'll say it again. If you are a player and you have a DM and they are always the DM, offer to do a one shot for them every once in a while. It's nice for them to get a break, gives them some time to prep. They can just play a character idea or concept out that they might want to use later on down the line, or maybe they had a character that they made that was an NPC that they really loved and they would kind of like to revisit. This could be a chance for that. I mean, many of my better characters, I think, originally started out as NPCs that I thought were kind of funny, but they were kind of throwaway NPCs. Maybe they were in it one session in a town, and then when the party members left the town, they never came back. But these one shots are kind of my chance to bring back some of those more silly ideas, flesh them out a little bit more, try them out with a different audience, and maybe make a better character in the long run. So consider doing that for your DM. It'll help you understand where your DM's coming from, how much work goes into making a session, how much time it takes. And I think the more you understand where the other person's kind of coming from, what they're doing, what they're putting in, the more common ground you guys are going to have, the more you're going to respect their time. But I think a lot of D&D fizzles out not because people don't like each other. Either someone's too busy or they kind of lose perspective, you know what I mean, of why they're doing it. So I think just giving your DM some time, at least once a month, where they can prep, they have a little extra time, they can catch up on the things that they want to do, and giving you some perspective of how much work goes into actually making a session, I think could benefit both parties. Now, I played this character, I believe 2, 3 years ago is when we did the one shot that turned into a mini campaign. And I think something that might be kind of a key takeaway from this character for me was to give myself something really tangible to use as a voice reference because I like to try and do voices. I'm trying to grow as a role player, very good mechanically and tactically. That's why I play war games as well. But the role play aspect of it is something that I tend to struggle with more as a player. I can do, I can do the more comedic characters and things of that nature, but I really struggle with things like voices and really trying to get out of my mold and play something really different. So I think doing something like giving your character like a voice reference, like a specific thing that you can watch before every session to help remind you is huge because that's what I would do is watch I would take 15 minutes or so before the session would start and I would just watch some random clips on YouTube of Foghorn Leghorn to help me get back into like the speaking rhythm, help me kind of think about like the things that they would say, help me get back into like the older southern kind of country mindset. Would I lose it in the middle of the session? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Like I'm awful with accents and they wander constantly. But having like something to ground me, being like, ah crap, I lost it. Hold on, let me just listen to something real quick. Listen to like a 5, 6 second clip of Foghorn Leghorn talking again, do the I say, and then getting back into it pretty rapidly, I think is really helpful. So, if you are like myself and you are trying to get more into the voice acting aspect of the game and you want to just not sound like yourself and you want to try and break the mold and maybe do some fun voices for your players, or maybe you want to try some voices out yourself for future character ideas, I think that's a really good way of kind of starting. Then once you know accents and you're as talented as the other people that can just, think of an idea and then just be like, "I'm gonna do a Boston accent," and then just do a Boston accent for an hour. Well, congratulations. Good for you. If I wanted to do, like, something Boston inspired, I would have to go listen to Scout talk, because the voice actor does do videos, or you can just watch the Team Fortress 2 lines, and I would have to listen to that for quite a while, say it out loud with the character over and over again, pick a phrase that's gonna be my, like, thing that I use to get into that mindset again, and I'm still gonna wander randomly through the sessions. So, it is what it is. Not all of us are as gifted as other people, and that's okay, right? So, if you are like me and you struggle in that aspect, that might be a possible help solution for you. So please, put down in the comments what you thought of the video. If there are any other kind of ideas from it that you really thought were interesting or you want to steal for maybe one of your NPCs or characters, I would greatly appreciate it if you put that in the comment below. What really stuck out to you, what parts you liked, what parts you would have wanted me to go into more depth with. Thank you for watching.